Good evening, Glacier fans. Welcome to Virtual Backpackers Ball. I'm Amy Lucke, the Donor Engagement Lead at the Glacier National Park Conservancy. This week, you can help protect Glacier National Park for future generations by participating in our silent auction, featured auction, or simply by donating. Every night from now until Thursday, you will have the opportunity to get an inside look at park projects funded by your donations. From research projects to preservation studies to education initiatives, you'll hear park experts explain how you make a difference. So sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's Project Spotlight.
I'm Doug Mitchell. I'm the Executive Director of the Glacier National Park Conservancy.
I'm Vlad Kovalenko, and I am a Glacier National Park Wildlife Technician and University of Montana graduate student.
And I'm Lisa Bate, Wildlife Biologist with Glacier National Park.
Lisa and Vlad, thanks for joining me out here at the beautiful Fish Creek Campground in the west side of the park. So we get to talk about birds and trees and Keystone species. It's really cool what you guys have been doing together over the past couple of years. Let's talk about the Clark's nutcracker and the white bark pine, the interdependence between the two. It's really kind of a cool story, Lisa.
I was working with Dawn LaFleur, our botanist in the park, and she was telling me how important white bark pine is to numerous species in the park. And I knew that they were intricately connected with Clark's, but I really didn't understand at what level. And I started delving into the research and learned that without this bird, there are no new generations of white bark pine that come out on the landscape in Glacier National Park. And without good cone crops, the Clark's do not reproduce. So they have co-evolved in a mutualistic relationship, and we've lost more than 90% of the white bark pine in Glacier. So the question was, well, are Clark's even breeding here? When we wrote that first proposal and got some funding for it, I realized it was going to be a massive project, and that's when we decided to make it into a graduate project.
So Vlad, how did you decide that this was your thing?
I was a seasonal technician in Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park, and I was working for the Sierra Nevada monitoring crew. And our job was to actually hike up to all these high elevation white bark forests and to check on their health. And kind of coincidentally, I kept noticing this really loud, obnoxious bird that was everywhere up there.
Make the sound for us, Vlad.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would wake me up in the morning and I'd just be so peeved. But just after getting to watch them for 2 summers, I fell in love with them. They're so quirky and have so much character, and white bark pine has a very large and dense pine nut that cannot really be dispersed via the wind. So they found this partner that's able to use its specialized bill to crack that cone open, almost like a woodpecker would in the tree, and it can extract these nuts and store them in a sublingual pouch. And it's been documented to store up to 100 of these pretty large pine nuts underneath its tongue. And then it flies around the landscape and deposits them in what's called caches. And it basically has the most amazing spatial memory of any animal that we're aware of. And it can remember thousands and thousands of these caches throughout the landscape.
So even though they've got a great memory, since they're storing so many seeds, right, even if they can't find 10% of them, that's still the inventory that allows the forest to regrow. The fear, as I understand it, or the difficulty is we've had so much damage and it takes so long for a white bark pine to produce its first cone. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
50 years.
Yeah, and for folks who might not be familiar, you referred to, we lost a lot of the white bark pine. I think we refer to that as ghost forests. Is that kind of one of the reference points that they talk about, right? And like when I hiked up Scenic Point, you see a lot of the damage related to, and that would be a blight of some sort that has killed that, or is that bugs?
It's actually an introduced fungus. It's called Carnartium rubicola, and it has just spread like wildfire through the 5-needle pines, starting in British Columbia and moving its way down the Pacific coast and inland.
We are working with a very reduced population, both of white bark pine and Clark's nutcrackers. So time is critical here because we don't know if we can wait any longer. We could choose to do nothing, but if we choose to do nothing, that could collapse the entire ecosystem here in Glacier for both white bark pine and Clark's nutcracker.
Part of the reason we're doing this kind of a program is to be able to educate about that. It's really a way that we can follow the mission of the Conservancy. It's just really simple. We're here to preserve and protect Glacier National Park for future generations. And a big part of that is the habitat and the species that make Glacier their home. So without you guys and without this collaboration of donors and groups and volunteers and people like you, none of this would be possible. So thank you very much for spending some time with me today in this beautiful environment here at Fish Creek Campground, and for all the work that you do to make Glacier such a special place.
Thanks for tuning in and for your continued support of the Glacier National Park Conservancy. Be sure to check out our wonderful silent auction items right here at BACKPACKER'Sball.com, and join us again tomorrow for an in-depth look at the Wilderness Character Mapping Project. See you there!